Got to look at some stinging new poll numbers for the White House showing Americans are sick of Washington. Shocker. The president's approval rating, though, reaching a new low in this survey as well. New hour here of America's Newsroom. I'm Bill Hemmer. Hope you're having a great morning. How are you, Molly?
I'm doing great. I'm Molly Lyon in for Martha McCallum. According to the Wall Street Journal poll, an NBC News poll, just 40% of voters approve of the job President Obama is doing, while 54% don't. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry, live on the North Lawn this morning. Ed, these seem to be pretty tough numbers, bad numbers, especially on the economy.
Well, you're right, Molly. That's the thing to highlight right now, because if you look at the NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, it suggests widespread economic anxiety among the American people when the president's been cheerleading a recovery. It's basically, if you're somewhat very dissatisfied about the economy, 64%, somewhat very satisfied, just 35%. And the contrast is stark because last Friday, the president had a news conference here at the White House and was talking about, hey, we just got a new jobs report, over 200,000 jobs created in July. He said the energy, tech, and auto sectors, in his words, were booming. And he went on to say, quote, our engines are revving a little bit louder. This poll suggests that the American people might not be buying that maybe the economy is getting better based on the statistics that are out there, unemployment rate and other things like that, but they're just not feeling a recovery, and so maybe they don't feel like the engines are revving. They feel like they're in neutral, Molly.
Yeah, and then there's foreign policy crisis. Many of them all over the world seem to be taking a toll as well, right?
Yeah, if you look at the foreign policy numbers as well, it suggests widespread dissatisfaction with how America is viewed around the world right now, America's role in the world. 62% somewhat or very dissatisfied, 35% somewhat or very satisfied. Very similar to those economic numbers. And why that's significant is, look, the president's going to get another bite of the apple, if you will, today. He's having another news conference over at the State Department, 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern hour, to sort of wrap up this African summit he's been hosting here in Washington this week. He wants to take some questions from the White House press corps, sort of, talk up what he's doing to deal not just with Africa, but some of these crises around the world. But the American people seem to be telling him in this poll they're not satisfied with how he's handling all of this.
All right, Ed Henry, thank you so much for keeping us up to date with that.
Bit more analysis now. Chris Starwald, Fox News digital policy editor and the author of Fox News First. Good morning to you, Brother Chris.
Morning, Brother Bill.
What's the takeaway? What's the carry-out? You write, when the world seems to be falling apart, it reflects itself in how Americans feel about leadership. Is that what you see here?
Oh, big time. You know, this is a president who is in a crisis of confidence with his electorate. These are people who you see in this poll are very anxious about, yes, the economy, but they have been pretty anxious about the economy for a long time. We've learned to feel bad about the economy. The new normal ain't so great. But on foreign affairs, which used to be the president's strong point, now we see crisis after crisis, whether it's the Ukraine, whether it's ongoing difficulties with Putin in other places, whether it is the civil war in Syria, whether it's problems in Israel, whether it's the rise of a caliphatic state in northern Iraq and Syria. People are very anxious, but on no subject are they more anxious and more unhappy with the handling than they are on the border crisis. And that's the place where the president has been pushing the hardest and talking the most. That's bad news.
Is the U.S. on the right track or the wrong track? We look at this every time elections pop up. 71% say the country right now is on the wrong track. I found that interesting. This I found interesting as well. In this poll by the Wall Street Journal, among respondents in the 12 states that have the most competitive races for the Senate come November, 58% disapprove of the president's job performance. How significant is that 58% number, do you think?
Enormous. There is a strong correlation. History has shown an incredibly strong correlation between a president's overall approval ratings and the performance of his party in his second-term midterms. That's just one of those things that's true. It was only not true for Bill Clinton in 1998. And I want to tell you, Bill Clinton was a heck of a lot more popular in 1998 than Barack Obama is this time around. And the other thing that is key is in 2010, when the president and his party got swamped, absolutely swamped by Republicans in midterms, the Republicans were actually faring worse in the head-to-head matchup with Democrats, and the president's job approval numbers were dramatically higher. So this overall, there are less seats up for grabs, But this overall is a very dire depiction of Democratic hopes for keeping the Senate in the fall.
Yeah, I talked to Herman Cain last hour. He's got a radio show every day in Georgia. Goes out all across the country. And I asked him whether or not Republicans can take the Senate, or is it too close to call? He says by an edge, essentially, they will win the Senate. I don't know what your position is on it right now, because you're looking at these races every day. But what you're suggesting now is that these numbers are ominous for Democrats.
I think if the election were held today, which it ain't, the Republicans would get 8 or 10 seats. They'd get more than what they need in order to take the Senate majority, which is 6. I think they could be looking at double digits, but certainly 8. Now, the election's not held today. It's going to be held 90 days from today. And over that time, a lot of things can change. People can say stupid things. Money will be spent. But right now, this is setting up for Democrats to get swamped and lose the Senate. And when Democrats think about that, as that reality sets in, guess what will happen? They will become less enthusiastic to go knock on doors and get to the polls. Yeah. And it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Does it appear the president is being more public in the last week or so than we had seen in the weeks previously, or is that just is that a fair observation at the moment?
He is. He's talking more. Whether that's a good idea, that remains to be seen. There are probably plenty of Democrats that wish he'd hold fewer press conferences and go out and be the bear on the loose a little bit less. They'd probably like it if he'd stay at Camp David.
Ain't gonna happen. He's
No,
going to raise money. Thank you, Chris Stirewalt in Washington. Nice to see you.